And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series.
Watson, touchdown! Hunter Renfrow.
He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Citadel baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and good Friday and good afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us on the JB and Goldwater app. You can download that into your phone, of course. It is free. You can watch and listen to our program daily in its entirety, and you can always go back and check us out if you happen to miss any part of our programming. We are here until 2 o'clock today, and we're quite busy between now and then. More hoops news, coaching hoops news, nationally related, has been released this morning. We'll get to that here in just a little bit. The Final Four is set to tip off tonight. The Lady Gamecocks are set to go against Stanford at 6 o'clock on ESPN. We've got a full report coming in about 20 minutes from San Antonio from none other than Debbie Antonelli. She will preview the women's Final Four. She'll preview the men's Final Four as well. She's spoken with Gene Sapikoff. There's a column in the Post and Courier about that. She actually has submitted some picks to win this whole thing, and I might think that some of you in the state of South Carolina would be happy to hear whom she picked, at least on the women's side. So we're going to speak to her coming up in just a little while. Obviously, college baseball is in full swing this weekend. We got you covered there. We do have Raphael Esparza at 12:40 today from Vegas. That's where Debbie Antonelli wants to play the women's Sweet 16 every year. Raphael's going to tell you how to win some money in both of these tournaments and maybe a little bit more. Obviously, Major League Baseball is back as of yesterday, so we've got some of that to get to. Clemson spring game is this weekend. Grace Raynor will check in at 1:05 this afternoon, theathletic.com, and give us a little bit of a preview of what she'll be watching and looking for as the Tigers take the field tomorrow. Of course, the coaching staff as well. We've got some golf news, some great news for the state of South Carolina coming up there. The future of spring games. It is a jam-packed full Friday afternoon here on the JB and Goldwater Show, where you can find us across all social media platforms at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. And if you want to send us a text or give us a call, do it at 843-321-8893. That being said, good afternoon, Mr. Goldwater. How are you, my friend?
I'm looking forward to the weekend, looking forward to the Final Four. Maybe I'll get some Nationals baseball this weekend, but I don't like my odds of that. But anyway, at least I get big league baseball, I get college baseball, and I get the Final Four for the men and the women. So it's a good weekend. And when the weekend is over, it's Masters week. So there's a lot to look forward to this weekend.
Absolutely. Speaking of golf, some news this morning from Governor Henry McMaster. A third PGA Tour event will be played in this state in June 10th through the 13th. It will be played in Ridgeland, South Carolina. The Palmetto Championship is the name of it. Is actually replacing the RBC Canadian Open. And obviously, we've got the Heritage coming up the week after the Masters. Then we have the PGA Championship and now the Palmetto Championship. That if you've never heard of Ridgeland, South Carolina, then you're probably not from South Carolina. So welcome. It's about 80 miles southwest or so of Charleston. So I'll be interested to see where the players are staying for that event. Maybe the Hilton Head area. It's kind of between Charleston and Hilton Head. I would venture a guess they'd probably stay down that way, Hilton Head, Beaufort area, and things like that. But that is some breaking golf news from this morning, and we'll dabble in that a little bit more coming up in our program. And happy Easter weekend to everybody. I know the Easter Bunny has already sent us a note. He'll be hopping our way sometime early Sunday morning, I think, and dropping off some Easter baskets for my little girls and my wife. And so I hope all of you have a beautiful and wonderful, happy Easter. It's going to be a perfect weekend as far as weather goes, and we're certainly looking forward to that. But, Darren, we got to get started with our 2-minute drill on a Friday afternoon. What are we watching for this weekend?
I can't imagine.
I don't know. Maybe the Final Four? How about that? The men are set to tip at 5:14 tomorrow on CBS, Houston and Baylor in that 2-1 matchup. 5-point favorites are the Baylor Bears in that ball game. And then 8:34 Saturday night on CBS, 11th seeded UCLA, top seeded Gonzaga. 14-point favorites are the Zags in the ball game. It's their second Final Four. The last one, they beat the Gamecocks 2017 to get to the national championship game. Final Four tonight in women's hoops. Top seeds, South Carolina, Stanford, 6 o'clock on ESPN. Stanford is a 6-point favorite in the ball game. Carolina looking to get back to the national championship game for the first time since 40 years ago and win another one. We'll see. And they could be seeing UConn, who will take on Arizona tonight at 9:30 on ESPN. Both of those, of course, from the Alamo Dome. UConn, 13.5-point favorites. In baseball, Charleston Southern already started their weekend. They lost to High Point yesterday. They've got a double dip today. College of Charleston is at James Madison in a 3-game series this weekend. The Citadel hosts Mercer in a 3-game set. Clemson is at NC State trying to avenge their loss against Georgia this week. South Carolina tonight, we'll get into this in a little bit, starts a series on the road in Athens, 17-6, 4-2 are the Gamecocks. See if they can get another series win after last weekend's against Florida. Coastal Carolina, of course, this weekend won't be playing. We announced that yesterday because of COVID issues within the program. Also, football. The Citadel's at Wofford tomorrow. Darren, Wofford's only a 7.5-point favorite in the game.
Closer to the end for the Citadel. That's what I think of that one.
I think so. Furman is at Mercer, South Carolina State at Alabama State, and PC at Stetson this weekend in state FCS football. And that is your 2-minute drill to start this Friday afternoon. 843-321-8893 again is our phone number. It is also our text line. Don't forget about golf this weekend. The ANWA is playing. Now, today's a practice round for the Augusta National Women's Amateur. The top 30 players after the first 2 days are playing a practice round. Tomorrow will be the final round of the ANWA, and that will be played at Augusta National. So tip of the cap to all those fine young ladies who are set to tee it off tomorrow at Augusta National, about a week or so from the Masters, of course, which is awesome. The ANA Inspiration, the ANA Inspiration, the first major of the year in women's golf is being played, of course, out in California. And then we also have the Valero this weekend in Texas, 1 week ahead of the Masters. And yesterday, Jordan Spieth had a pretty good day. We'll see if he can continue that. He is 5 under par. He is 4 shots off the lead, but it was Cameron Tringali who ended up taking the overall lead. And this morning, as a matter of fact, he is now 9 under and leading the tournament, and he's through 8 in the second round.
Good to see Spieth get off to that type of a start. However, it's one of his better. I think it's his best round ever at the Valero. And like we talked with Scott Glaze yesterday, just some tune-ups here for Spieth. It's more important for Spieth to have all the shapes of the shots he needs for next week than it is to win this tournament. So he's working on next week in this tournament. If he happens to win, great. It's pretty much the same with all the guys. If they happen to win, awesome. But you're working on your game for next week if you're playing in the Valero.
Yeah, there's no question. There's no question. And Jordan Spieth needs a good week. He's a mental guy, man. He needs confidence going into to next week's tournament, and we'll see. I don't think he has to win the tournament this week in order to play well in Augusta, but he just needs to be sharp. He needs to be sharp, so he can carry some momentum back east here to Augusta, Georgia. Bill Self, Darren, rewarded a lifetime contract today at Kansas, and they're also paying $1.35 million. Kansas is for his name, image, and likeness.
I saw that.
It's interesting. The school is going to go ahead and pay out. I don't know if that deal can be renegotiated in the future, if his value goes up or not. I'm not sure, but they're paying that. Now, here's how this works. It's a 5-year rolling deal. So every year they'll add a year onto the contract every single year. I haven't actually seen specifics on buyouts and things like that, Darren. Have you? I haven't seen the numbers.
I have not with this one. All I saw was that brief breakdown that Darren Ravel tweeted out that included the academic side of things, the overall base salary, and the name, image, and likeness part of it as well.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see what that means is the rolling deal as far as buyouts go. As far as salary goes, that might always be able to be negotiated, but essentially the lifetime deal is a recruiting tool for him, where every year you've got 5 years every year. But what's interesting is the timing of this, because yesterday North Carolina's head basketball coach Roy Williams stepped down. North Carolina's hired somebody away from Kansas before. That was Roy Williams. Of course, he was also a North Carolina guy. But you just kind of wonder if Kansas was like, you know what, we're not going to let anything like this happen again. Because as you and I talked about yesterday, I know that a lot of the national conversation is still, well, they want to hire somebody within the family and things like that. That's fine. Okay. But as you mentioned, which you were spot on, like you still have to swing for the home run guys in the sport. And Bill Self's a home run guy.
You have to swing for them. To what degree? Because after we got off the air, it was kind of laid out who's got say-so in this North Carolina thing. Number one, they wanted to move quickly. Number two, Roy Williams does have a say. So are they going to take a shot? I guess you have to. I guess you have to reach out to the likes of a Porter Moser, not Bill Self anymore, to a like of Mark Few. You still get the sense, though, that North Carolina wants to keep it in the family. And if it stays in the family, you got Hubert Davis, who's been on the bench, and you've got Wes Miller at UNCG. And I think anywhere outside of those two guys is a stretch in terms of what we will see eventually happen.
Yeah, they did. Larry Brown spoke this morning to Packer and Durham on the ACC network, and Larry Brown, of course, a legendary coach himself, and he said that he thinks that Roy Williams, at minimum, have say in the hire, but at maximum should be able to actually pick his successor, which I don't know that that's the right way to do that necessarily. You're the administration. You have to have some type of control over this.
I alluded to it yesterday, though, right? I mean, I said what Roy Williams wants, he generally gets, and he has enough stock built up that he has that right, and he has that cachet. And there is a feeling that Roy Williams wants it to stay in the family, and there is no doubt about what he feels about Wes Miller and Hubert Davis. That's why I don't think it gets beyond those two.
Yeah, generally when it stays in the family at North Carolina, it for the most part works out. Matt Doherty did not work out, but Frank McGuire, the legendary Frank McGuire, who of course coached at South Carolina, won a national championship at North Carolina before coming down here and spending time with the Gamecocks. North Carolina guy. Dean Smith, North Carolina guy. Bill Guthridge, when Dean Smith retired, North Carolina guy. Then he retired, and he went to 2 Final Fours in the 3 seasons he was the head coach. Matt Doherty didn't work. Roy Williams did work. And so you want to make sure, no offense to Matt Doherty, who I respect immensely, and he actually does a fantastic job with radio in the state of North Carolina. But you want to make sure you don't hire the next Matt Doherty. You want to make sure that you find the next Roy Williams or the next Dean Smith or the next Bill Guthridge, for that matter.
That's the goal.
That's the goal, So but it's tricky to stay in the quote in the family. You got to still get the hire right, regardless of the allegiance.
That's right. Yeah, and whoever is there is expected to win, and not take time to win, and not build the program back up from a year that wasn't its best. Win now and forever. That's the expectation. That's the goal. And if you fall short of that goal, you're not going to be in Chapel Hill very long. It's very simple there.
Yeah, they're not going to give you much time to play around with that, no doubt. In 5 minutes, we'll toy around with Debbie Antonelli live from San Antonio. She'll preview the women's Final Four tonight and the men's Final Four tomorrow night. And certainly looking forward to her thoughts. I do want to touch on the South Carolina-Georgia series this weekend. 6 is a bad number and a good number this weekend for Carolina. It might be the magic number. How about that?
All right.
Because they've won 6 in a row, but they have lost 6 straight series to Georgia. They've also lost 6 straight games to the Georgia Bulldogs. They've lost 10 of 11, as a matter of fact, in this series, and they've only won 3 series in Athens since 2000, 2002, and 2010. So it's tough to go to Foley Field and win, but they swept Florida last weekend, and they certainly have a chance to take 2 of 3 this weekend. Georgia at 17-7 overall with that win over Clemson, just 2-4 in the league. But Georgia is dangerous. It's a dangerous place for South Carolina, Darren. And these next 2 series, the Dogs and Missouri, it's an opportunity for them to climb. They're 4-2. I mean, they're up there, but to continue to gain some ground in SEC standings. This is it's a tough place to play for South Carolina this weekend, but they're certainly looking forward to capitalizing on this 6-game winning streak.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to take a game from Vandy, then sweep Florida, have this momentum, and then kind of stub your toe, Georgia and Missouri. Even though history tells you it's tough against Georgia, that's not what you want to do right now, because you've got the momentum, you're projecting the right way, you're approaching the halfway point, you're gaining more national attention. The last thing you want to do, it's almost like these become in the same idea as some of these midweek games where you got to win them if they're winnable games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to win these series. I'm not saying go sweep Georgia and Missouri, but you want at least 4 of these games.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. 4-2 is the goal over the next couple of weeks. That'd be 3 straight wins in the league. All right, we need to hit a timeout. We're going to take an early timeout here. When we return, we will take a trip west, way west, as a matter of fact, to the Lone Star State. That's where Debbie Antonelli, she'll call the women's Final Four on Westwood One tonight. She has, of course, been calling all of these games in the postseason, and she will give us her preview of both the men's and the women's big weekends in college hoops. So hang tight. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. We'll be right back.
Peace and love at Stokes Meet Up.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. Whatever you got planned this week, cancel it. 72 new Volkswagens will be sold in the next 72 hours at whatever price it takes. I repeat, 72 new Volkswagens will be sold in the next 72 hours. To the first 72 car buyers interested in saving up to $6,000 on a new Volkswagen for 3 days only. Every new Volkswagen and pre-owned vehicle at our bottom line price. Direct to the public, regardless of profit. Qualified purchases with interest-free financing for 60 months, and all trade-ins will be accepted. Interested parties should arrive early for best selection. You will not find a lower price anywhere in the country. 72-hour Volkswagen clearance, savings up to $6,000, 3 days only at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
Peace and love at Stokes Meet Up.
$16.66 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with 0 down. Plus tax tag includes $499.50 administration fee subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at McFadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about McFadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
Guys, spring is finally in the air. You know what that means? Basketball in its home stretch. March Madness promotion at Dog and Ducks, 3 locations in Mount Pleasant, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. From now until the end of the tournament, $5 Sweetwater pints. That's right. every Sweetwater, just $5 at Dog and Duck Park West, Bell Hall, and their Clements Ferry location. Plus, baseball spring training, college baseball, spring football, it's all available at Dog and Duck's 3 locations in Mount Pleasant.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and awesome.
Final Four weekend it is. Welcome back. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes of Volkswagen. It is Good Friday, April the 2nd. Happy Easter weekend to all of you out there watching and listening to our program. Darren, Jamie, and Debbie. Debbie Antonelli is kind enough amongst all of the craziness in her schedule right now to join us from San Antonio, Texas, where tonight she'll be on the call with Westwood One. The women's Final Four tipping off at 6 o'clock Eastern. And Debbie, it is so good to hear from you again. Thank you for being a part of our program today. And what a week it's been, or the last few weeks has been for you. I know it's been a wild time, so thanks for squeezing us in.
I could never say no to you two. You guys are awesome, and I'm so pleased that you always invite me.
Well, I texted you this morning because I said, look, we're not trying to hound you. I know I've texted you a couple of times this week, and you're so busy, and I don't ever know when you're doing what or where you are, what's going on. So I hope you don't think that we're just trying to smother you with this. We know you're the best, and we want a piece of you like everybody else, but we apologize for always kind of being in your hair about these things. I'm sorry about that.
Oh no, I love it, guys. You know, college basketball is my thing. It's what I do on the men and women's side, and this is the best time to be talking about the game because the game is so good. So I love it. You guys know I love it. It's not a problem at all. So thank you. This is the 4th interview I've done today, though, so things are going really well this morning.
Exactly. I know. Well, all right. We're not going to keep you forever, but we do want to get your thoughts on both the men's and the women's Final Four, and we'll start with the ladies first because they tip at 6 tonight, and you've got Stanford, you've got South Carolina, Debbie, 2 of the heavyweights in women's basketball, and there could be an argument made right now in favor of the Gamecocks playing their best basketball of the season. As you've watched them play the last 4 games in this tournament, what have you seen out of Dawn and her girls as they're set to take the stage in another Final Four tonight?
Well, first of all, Dawn Staley has done everything in a basketball resume. She checks off every box. There's not anything missing on her list of accomplishments or things that you might want to do on your bucket list in the game. She's done it all, and her team is playing their best basketball. I would say smart, great chemistry, good understanding of who to get the ball to, when and where, and that all centers around Aaliyah Boston. She has continued to get more quality touches as the season has gone on, and no more important than this time to play through her on the block, and they've done a good job of doing that.
How about Stanford? This is a team, they can score. South Carolina's only given up 48.5 points per game defensively in the dance, but the Cardinal, they can run up and down the floor. What gives tonight in that matchup?
Tara Vanderveer, just named the Naismith Coach of the Year, has had a 29-year drought between championships. This has been 1992 was the last time she won. She has a team with incredible offensive habits. They run the floor hard and wide. They're very unselfish. They share the ball. Keanu Williams at the point is one of their best players in the history of their program. Haley Jones is what Tara Vanderveer would call the future. They've got size. They've got speed. They've got great balance. South Carolina has not been out-rebounded all year, so that will be a key. And I think another thing will be for South Carolina, they have to run Stanford off the three-point line. They're on pace right now to set a record-setting three-point makes in a tournament. They've got 50. If they make 5 more, they'll break the NCAA women's tournament record.
Wow. I did not know that. You know, the last game that the Gamecocks played was interesting. I believe you called it, and I believe it was halftime. Maria Taylor anchored the halftime coverage on ESPN, And there was a point made that Dawn essentially used Aaliyah Boston as a decoy down low, and that's why Saxton had all those points early in the game. Can you take us through what you saw there, what their game plan was, at least early, to try to take Georgia Tech out of this thing in a hurry?
Well, I don't think Aaliyah Boston is ever considered a decoy. I think she's the top of the scouting report target. So I think there's an incredible counter to what Boston can do, and that is because she's so big and strong around the block, she demands two, and you have to make her play in a crowd. And when you make her play in a crowd, the backside is typically open if you don't rotate properly. So, the weak side glass, the ability to rebound, me here and Saxton are both taking advantage of that. And the way the game started, Dawn Staley had a matchup advantage with Victoria Saxton on a smaller power forward for Texas, because essentially they were playing four guards. And so that's why they were able to get the ball to Saxton to start the game. There's a couple of things that I'm watching from Dawn Staley. I watched every one of Aaliyah Boston's assists and turnovers on Synergy and charted them because I was curious what she was doing in those situations in the game, because that's where this game's going to come down to, the last possession, fourth quarter. I mean, execution is going to be critical. When Aaliyah Boston catches it on the block on the low post, she always plays in a crowd. She gets a double. If she puts it on the floor, she's probably only going to dribble once. If she dribbles twice or three times, Stanford will probably dig in and take it. So she's got to be very judicious about where she catches it and how she moves. When she catches it in the high post area, she's really good at making the high-low pass, and she's really good at making that reversal pass into a three, which is usually Zia Cook or Tiffany Henderson. So you've got to be very careful about how you pressure her and close down her space, but she's clearly the key to everything that they do and how they go about playing. And Zia Cook is playing her best basketball as well. The other thing about South Carolina is Bree Beal is excellent in their situational offense, like baseline out of bounds, sideline out of bounds, after timeouts or ATOs. Dawn Staley has done an excellent job of finding Bree Beal in those situations to get her a quality catch so she can catch it in her scoring range and finish. And she can go 80% on those situational plays tonight. That'll be a big boost for South Carolina.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the guards. It seems the last couple of games, we know at times, or at least I've seen this year, this is the way I've seen it, that as fast as they can go, that can sometimes get them in a little bit of trouble. But how do you assess the guard play thus far in the tournament for Carolina?
Well, here's the thing. Like, if South Carolina has a break off a turnover, a steal, or whatever, a live ball situation where they can finish, they'll take it to the rim. But Aaliyah Boston inbounds the other team's makes. So while everyone else runs, and they run hard, if Boston it is always trailing the play, so they always wait for her and then they execute. So the guards have to continue to make good decisions with the ball. If you have something that you can score on when you have numbers, I think Dawn Staley would want them to take that shot. But they don't want any quick shots, and they don't want your shot selection to lead into transition opportunity for Stanford. And if Aaliyah Boston's taking the ball out of bounds, if you don't have a layup, you're waiting for her, and then you run stuff through her. And I think they've been very smart about doing that.
I know when we talked to you a few weeks ago, you mentioned UConn. Well, you've mentioned South Carolina, of course, all year. You've seen plenty of them, but you mentioned UConn. You mentioned Stanford. Those two maybe could be the favorites to win this thing, and we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, Paige, Beckers, and UConn. We're going to get to them here in just a moment. But has anything changed your thought process about South Carolina since watching them play, maybe from the SEC tournament on? Has anything kind of or your mentality of what they had done throughout the regular season as opposed to now, have your thoughts changed on the Gamecocks?
You know what, Jamie? I think they're playing with a lot more discipline and a better understanding. And this is a young team. Well, they're really, really talented. I mean, shoot, Dawn's got 6 high school All-Americans on her roster now. She's got 4 more coming in. They're going to have 10 if everybody stays. So I think they've matured as the season has gone on. They understand where the ball needs to be and how they need to play through Boston. And I think that discipline that Coach Staley has asked them to play with is finally coming together. That's the thing that I see. And you're going to have tremendous discipline against Stanford because you can't make back-to-back mistakes. if you miss a closeout on one end and they score, you better not give up a transition bucket the next time. I think South Carolina's got to really concentrate on running them off the 3-point line and make them take tough twos, and then, set their defense and really get after them. Keanu Williams is a handful. She's an unassuming, one of the best players in the history of their program based on her numbers, and they've got to keep her in check. And Anna Wilson, who is Russell Wilson's sister, who gets a lot of publicity for being his sister, is a heck of a player and one of the best defensive players in this tournament. So I think she'll probably have the Cook matchup early is what I'm thinking, and we'll see how that goes.
From a broader perspective, you've been a huge proponent of the women's tournament out in Vegas, now in San Antonio, even though there are COVID restrictions and the bubble and a lot of things that are very odd and very different. But as the tournament in one place, what's the feel and what changes or enhances your belief of the women's tournament to Vegas one day being the best thing for the sport?
Oh, come on, guys. You know how I feel about it. I mean, I have, unfortunately, the pandemic put us here. But, yes, the coaches and players love it. It is nothing but positive. Now, we've had a lot of discussion about inequities, and there's been a whole other conversation taking place here. But this puts everything on the table. And this format with first and second round at home and then a Sweet 16 to a location. I prefer Vegas. It could be Orlando. It could be Columbus, Ohio. It could be Greenville, South Carolina. To me, what's important there is that we allow fans on Christmas morning to prepare and plan airline, hotel, tickets, and know that you can go to a destination city and support not just your team, but grow the fan base of our game by giving the fans an opportunity to actually plan. Everything else is kind of like last minute, throw it together, hope you get a good flight and you can afford a hotel. I like Vegas for a lot of reasons. And one of the most important reasons that gets overlooked is that an MGM property has 14 different price points where you can get a hotel room for $50 or you can get a hotel room for $5,000. So there's something for everyone in Vegas. And if your team is playing in that event in Vegas, you can go to the pool, shopping, play golf, go to the Hoover Dam. You can go to a show, and you can do a lot of things before you even mention going in the casino. So it's a destination city that I think would help grow our game. But most importantly, on a broader stroke, yes, this is working. Yes, it will work. Will they continue to do it? We don't know. That's not my decision to make. I'm not a one that complains. I try to provide a solution. And I think everything's on the table to be evaluated right now.
Debbie Antonelli in San Antonio, Texas. One final note on this South Carolina Stanford ball game tonight. I feel quite comfortable in saying this, I'm sure, is already in Debbie's notes, but Gamecocks just 1-5 all time versus Stanford. However, that one win was 4 years ago in the Final Four in Dallas, Texas, as Carolina marched their way to their first national championship with Asia Wilson and Dawn Staley and that crew. And by the way, that Mississippi State team they beat that year was coached by Vic Schaefer, whom they just beat against Texas the other night. All right, you got Arizona and UConn tonight as well. We all know about UConn. We get it. This is their home away from home, basically, the Final Four in the national championship. But not a lot of folks know about Arizona, Debbie. And right now they're 13, 14-point dogs in the game, and probably rightfully so. But tell us about the Wildcats. What type of challenges did they present for UConn?
Well, first of all, Arizona has not been to the NCAA tournament since 2005, and here they are in the Final Four with a fifth-year head coach who is an incredible winner and great ambassador for our game. Adia Barnes has won a WNBA title, and she played at Arizona. And when she took the job, a lot of people told her not to take it. Even in her second year, they only won 6 games, and here they are in her fifth year in the Final Four with a senior class led by one player. Everyone else left. Sam Thomas is their best perimeter stopper. Kate Reese is another 1,000-point scorer. They have 3. But then the headliner is Ari McDonald. And I'm telling you guys, there's nobody quicker in the game with the ball. There's nobody that has more speed with the ball. And she'll be a handful. Connecticut's not seen anybody like her because there isn't anyone else like her. She's a 2-time Pac-12 Player of the Year, a co-defensive Player of the Year. She's an All-American. She's a fantastic player, and it'll be interesting to see. You can't keep her in front with one. She's excellent in their ball screen offense. Connecticut's ball screen coverage is going to have to be right. If they decide to trap, she's untrappable, unflappable. If they decide drop coverage, she's going to score 2 in the paint or make a play for someone else. She's really that good, and she's had back-to-back 30-point games. And, you know, if you're Gino, do you load up to try to keep her from scoring, or do you let her get 30 and take everyone else out? That's going to be something to keep your eye on.
How do you slow down Paige Beckers?
That's a good question. So, you know, in what I do, I'm always looking at, like, you can't stop her. You got to try to contain her. All right? In the Big East tournament, they played 3 games. She made 23 baskets in the Big East tournament. 20 of them were in the middle to the right side of the floor. In the NCAA tournament, she's made 30 baskets. 22 of them are in the middle to the right side of the floor. So you got to make her go left. Okay? Can you make her go left? When she gets on the left side of the floor, can you keep her over there? You've got to try to cut down something. She's a great passer. She's the AP and the Naismith Player of the Year. We've never had a freshman win the AP Player of the Year. She's really, really good, guys. She's so entertaining. We're going to get a chance to experience watching her for a few more years in college basketball, but she's got quite a bit of following. She's got her own little celebrity, and she handles it all so well. She truly looks like an All-American.
I watched the video when Gino takes the AP Player of the Year trophy out of the box. He walks it over to her, and her teammates coerce her into giving a speech that she doesn't make it through because she's crying, thanking her teammates. In talking to her, is that the type of person that she is? Is it all about everybody else and deflect all the attention away from me?
I think when you have that kind of greatness, you understand that, you know, you have to share, brag on your teammates, be unselfish, and respect and be humble about where you came from and how far you've come and how hard you've worked to get there. Because you know how hard this kid has worked to be able to put herself in this position. And yes, that's exactly who she is. And it's going to be great storytelling for the rest of her career at UConn. And UConn's a special, unique place. I mean, you mentioned it, 13 consecutive Final Fours. They have their own television network. They have their own beat writers. They get more coverage than anyone else in the women's game. That nobody covers their story more. I think it's going to be really fun to keep an eye on that. She's certainly a remarkable young woman who has worked really hard to get what she's received so far, and she's got a lot more hardware ahead of her.
Final couple minutes with you, Debbie, and then we'll let you get to probably your next interview and maybe some lunch. Maybe squeeze that in today before you have to get on the call tonight. I do want to slide to the men's side, though, because that is set to go tomorrow. It's an incredibly interesting Final Four, especially because UCLA's in there. But it's not like they're new to this thing. They've been now to 19 of these, which is 8 more than Houston, Baylor, and Gonzaga have total combined between the three. But Gonzaga is the perceived favorite to win the national championship. Are you surprised? It's 2021. Mark Few, you feel like the Zags have been there. I mean, they almost won it in 2017. They beat Frank Martin in South Carolina to get to the title game and couldn't get it done. But is it almost surprising to think that after, I don't know, what, the last 15 years, everything we've seen that program accomplish, they actually haven't won a title yet?
You know, I had a chance to cover Houston and Gonzaga in the men's tournament in my first and second round assignments for CBS. And so I feel like I know those teams pretty well because I've studied them so much. I don't know if I've ever enjoyed watching a team more than Gonzaga. I mean, they can score and do so many things. They do everything right. Their habits are on spot. Their timing and their angles and their spacing. People talk about spacing, but you can't have great spacing if you don't have good cutters and good shot makers and shooters. And they've got all of that. They are really phenomenal. And Houston, on the other side, is going to challenge Baylor. Baylor's gotten all the hype. Houston played in the American. Let me tell you about Kelvin Sampson now. That guy's got his team on fire right now. They They can defend, they offensive rebound, they're very disruptive, they play high tempo. Quentin Grimes can make any shot. He has incredible range. They are really hard to keep in front. So that Baylor-Houston matchup should be off the charts fun to watch. And then I don't see anybody taking chipping away at Gonzaga at all. And my conversations with Mark Few, incredible gentleman, has had multiple offers to leave. And he says, why mess with Happy? Every time he's asked for something, they have given it to him. And remember, Gonzaga was flying around in charter flights well before the Pac-12 was doing that. So any of those Pac-12 jobs wouldn't necessarily be considered better in his mind. But he's an excellent teacher. He knows what he has in front of him. They're starting to really respect the historical perspective of what they could accomplish. And I think it just sets up for incredible men's Final Four. It's just going to be the women's Final Four and the men's Final Four this year are really exciting, very compelling, lots of good storylines, and a lot of really good characters in the event.
So am I hearing Houston and UConn in the final? Houston and Gonzaga in the final, and South Carolina and UConn. Is that what I'm hearing out of our conversation today?
That's what I'm going to go with. But, once you interject the lines, which I love to talk about, then I'm not picking. But I think the lines in the women's game are really important. But, yes, I think South Carolina would be – so Stanford would be, I think, -6. I think it went from 5 to 6. So I think South Carolina, if the game slows down and Boston can stay out of foul trouble, which she does really well, and they can guard all the three-point balance that Stanford has, I think they have a really good chance.
Final minute, Debbie. I just wanted to let you say a few words about Roy Williams yesterday announcing his retirement. One of the great legends of the history of this sport. I don't know how much you know Roy, but if you do, what type of man is Roy Williams? We know what type of coach is he. What type of man is Roy Williams, and how do you assess his career amongst the greats?
It's a real emotional thing for all of us that love the game so much. Even as an NC Stater, I had the utmost respect for Coach Williams. As a player at NC State, way back, we watched film on Dean Smith's teams because that was the way to do it. And North Carolina has always been an innovator and ahead and been such an incredible brand in our game. And it's kind of shocking. I mean, my first was, it's April Fool's, maybe this is a joke, but Roy's a very good family man. He's a down-to-earth guy. He loves his family and players. And I think maybe, I don't know if his health played a role in what his decision was, but the game is changing. The system with which we play the game is changing. And I think Roy's done plenty. And I love him, and I hope he'll play Bulls Bay with me when he's out there, because I'm going to bug the crap out of him until he does.
If not, I'm sure he'll take you to Wild Dunes because he's out there too.
Yeah, I'm going to get on the golf course with Coach Williams. I gave him a free pass when he was too busy recruiting and all that, but now I'm going to be on him.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let us know when that is, and Darren and I will Jim Nance it from the booth somewhere. We'll call the round for you, okay?
You guys are great. Thank you.
Debbie, you are great. You've been, as always, magnificent on the call of all of these games. It is, somebody tweeted something the other day about your coach's hat and how you put that on and how everybody learns so much when you're calling a game, and that was spot on. Thank you for all of your efforts and service and hard work towards the game of basketball. And thank you for being so kind to spend your time with us as well. We really appreciate it. And good luck and have fun this weekend.
See you guys May 15, 16 in my driveway.
You bet.
We'll be there. You got it. See you, Debbie. There you go, Debbie Antonelli live from San Antonio, Texas. She's got both women's matchups tonight on Westwood 1. And speaking of basketball, this gentleman here is going to tell you how to win some money. He's in Vegas. That's what we were just talking to Debbie about, taking the Sweet 16 to Las Vegas and women's basketball. Maybe one day that'll happen, Raphael Esparza, with mybookie.ag. What's up, brother?
Not much. I probably is going to happen much sooner than what people probably think. I think the women's probably championship Final Four will probably be there before the men's Final Four. I think they're going to do a kind of a test run on the gambling part of it with the women's than the men's. So I would not be shocked if the women's Final Four goes there before the men's Final Four.
She wants to take the whole Sweet 16. She wants the whole Sweet 16 played in Vegas. What do you think about that?
I could see that happening. Like, let's say MGM holding the Sweet 16 games and then maybe moving it to maybe where the Golden Knights play at T-Mobile for the Final Four and championship game. But no disrespect to women's games, I don't think they'll be able to put it off at T-Mobile for the Sweet 16 games. But why not play either at MGM or Mandalay Bay and then hold the Final Four at T-Mobile for Final Four in the national championship game? That'd be great. And that was a great interview. I listened to that whole interview, guys. That was a really good interview. And come on, she says that number did not open up 5. It opened up at 6. Come on, lady. Get your numbers correct.
Let me ask you this, Raphael. Speaking of women's game numbers, I haven't paid attention to a ton of them in the NCAA tournament, but I have paid attention to the Gamecocks. And it's been pretty low. I mean, they've covered easily for the majority, if not all, of this tournament. It's got to be harder to handicap the women's game, right? Because it's not done as often. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, you're right on it. I try to do it like during the season, like there was a great matchup, I would put a number out on a single. I mean, we don't do every game. We did every game for the tournament and stuff like that. But for women's hoops, especially in the tournament, it's usually chalk. I mean, we had some upsets where Indiana went pretty far. I'm still a little bit blown away that Arizona's in the Final Four. Again, no love for the West Coast. Come on, Arizona, Pac-12, baby. But yeah, it is hard, but normally it's chalk. It would not be shocked if it's chalk on this one, but I do like South Carolina. I think you got to take the plus points on that matchup, and I would take both dogs. I think Arizona can bother Connecticut. It's almost like Gonzaga's men's. If Arizona can make Connecticut play sloppy ball like Gonzaga did in the second half against USC, then I think Arizona can hang around and maybe backdoor. But I like both dogs tonight. Can't wait to watch these games tonight. So pumped up.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think both Final Fours are actually about to be exceptionally well played by all 8 teams involved in both the men and the women's side. 50% sign-up bonus up to $1,000 if you've never done it. MyBookie.ag is where you can be a part of all the fun and all the action right here. This may be a great weekend to actually have some fun with a couple of extra bucks you've got lying around. Head to mybookie.ag, and that's where you can get all of the fun stuff. So with the men, how many prop bets do you have right now?
I know they're still working on someone. I asked them today if they needed any help doing the Final Four prop bets, and they said the other 2 head odds makers were diving into them. They didn't want to put them out too early just because of, let's face it, we were trying to promote MLB opening day yesterday, and now stuff like that. They didn't want to overshadow baseball yesterday, so I know they'll probably put out a whole bunch of them more today. So I was just glad that the text message said no, we don't need any help, because if they did, I was hoping please say no. So I was I was actually a little bit happy on that. But they'll have a whole bunch, especially for the Gonzaga game. Let's face it, everyone wants to see if they can stay perfect. Everyone wants to see if they can be the next team like Indiana did. And I understand why that number's big, but I think that closes around 15, maybe even 16. It's the late game. So everyone that bets the first game, if they cash, you know what they're going to do. They're going to roll over probably with Gonzaga or the total on it. So I'm expecting a big handle for Gonzaga UCLA.
Houston and Baylor is 5.5. That's come down, right? It was 6.
Okay. It opened up at 6, and I want people Baylor. I know everyone wants to see 1 versus 2. Pretty much they were 1 versus 2 all year long, even when Baylor had their COVID hiccups. But I'm sorry, give me the Cougars. I'm not the biggest money line bettor. I like Houston to pull the upset on Baylor tomorrow. I think it's going to be Gonzaga-Houston in the finals, not Baylor. I like the underdog tomorrow. I like Houston. I think they're going to stretch the floor out. I think their press might bother Baylor, and if they can keep the boards close, and not win the rebound game, but just keep it close and avoid the second chance points, I think they pull the upset.
That's what Debbie just said, right, Darren? Didn't she say that she liked Houston as well?
She said that she thought it would be very hard to keep Houston in front of you defensively for Baylor. And as well as Kelvin Sampson has them coached, she thinks that it's a very dangerous game for the Bears. Yes.
How about that, Kelvin Sampson? I mean, you go back to everything that happened in his career at Oklahoma and this, I don't know, I don't want to call this necessarily a redemption tour, but just what he's done with this program. He's he's a hell of a basketball coach, regardless of all the craziness that happened. When was that? Even 15 years ago? Was it that long?
10, 15, yeah, 10, 15 years ago, Oklahoma and then Indiana. The irony was, and it was covered fairly well, was, he left Indiana in ruins. It was a disaster when he left. And now he's back in Indianapolis with Houston in the Final Four. I mean, it is a funny dynamic.
And now Indiana has Mike Woodson. So it's not like they went upwards.
This is Houston's 6th Final Four appearance. It's Baylor's 3rd. It's UCLA's 19th, and it's Gonzaga's 2nd. Right now, that has gone up. Gonzaga now 14.5-point favorites against UCLA, Raphael. So the money's coming in on the Zags, it appears.
And it's going to continue. I would not be shocked tomorrow when I wake up. It's going to be 15. I would be a little bit blown away if it goes 15.5, 16, but it wouldn't shock me. They've just been so dominant. I mean, they're just a well-oiled machine. I wish every high school coach watches Gonzaga play, because all they do is move about the ball, but they just play the game so correctly. They ship the ball. There's always at least 3 to 4 guys with double digits, besides Timmy, who gets a lot of his points either second hands or just giving the ball down low. They're just beautiful basketball to watch. I wish the Brooklyn Nets and James Harden would watch that, because it's not dribble, shoot a 3. Watch them Gonzaga move the ball, a real well-oiled machine.
Raphael Esparza on Twitter at VSI.Sports, 12:50 on this Good Friday afternoon, April the 2nd. Happy Easter weekend, by the way, Raphael. All right, and just to kind of finalize the women's side of this, Stanford, a 6-point favorite. You said take the under on that. Take Carolina at +6, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The over-under in that game is 134, Raphael, which is kind of an interesting stat line. South Carolina gives up 48.5 points per game in the tournament, and Stanford gives up 57.7 points per game in the tournament. By my calculations, which I'm not necessarily a math wizard, but that would be way under 134.
Look at that South Carolina education coming out on the airways. But yeah, you're correct. I like the under on that game. And the Arizona-Connecticut, I like the over in that game. That one opened up at 127. Would not be shocked if it moves to 129.5 by tip-off. Because it's the late game. And let's face it, Connecticut's gotten all the media love because of the freshmen. So I would not be shocked if that total keeps on climbing. But we should see a lot of points in that one.
All right, let's talk about something that was released 2 days ago, and that was Mark Emmert saying that if there is a COVID situation that postpones a game or pauses activities for a team in either Final Four, that game will be deemed a forfeit, and they will move along. No big deal. So let's say the games get decided tonight. Whoever, it's South Carolina and UConn in the women's championship, and UConn or South Carolina comes down with a COVID issue, contact tracing. They're not able to play the game. That's it. It's just over, right? According to Mark Emmert, it's just over. What do you think about that?
I think she was speaking off of a devastating loss. I don't think she was thinking what she probably wanted to say and what probably would actually happen. I think if that does happen, I think the NCAA would say, hey, push the championship game a week back. Make sure, because it's a championship game, you don't really want to give someone a trophy because the other team can't play and stuff like that. So I would not be shocked if that did, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. If they push it back. Now, if this was the opening round or even a second round game, then I'll be like, hey, too bad, too sad. You're moving on. Sorry, whatever team that got sick. It is what it is. But I'm sorry. I even think that it would happen in the final, even a Sweet 16 and on, Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four. I think they would probably do something to maybe push it back so those teams can play championship game. There's just no way. Here's your trophy because the other team is in isolation and COVID issues. There's no way. That'd be just horrible. That would have not just one asterisk next to it. It would have a whole bucket full of asterisks next to it.
I mean, the NCAA.
Let's hope it doesn't happen.
Absolutely, and it would be ridiculous. I agree with you, Raphael. They're just in enough hot water right now. They've got enough problems.
Yeah.
Don't create another one. I mean, if somebody, which I don't anticipate this happening, I think everybody is clear and good to go. But just even the fact that they would step out and say that, well, no, it'd just be a forfeit. We're going to move on. It's like, I mean, y'all can't get out of your own way. You just stand right in it every day.
That's why I don't put a dabber on her response, because they asked that question after a devastating loss. I mean, now if they asked her that same question the day after that loss, I bet you the answer is totally different.
Oh, you're talking about Kim Mulkey. I was talking about Mark Emmert.
Well, both. I think if you ask that question again, I bet you his answer is totally different.
Yeah,
that wouldn't be shocking for Mark Emmert, would it? I mean,
I think you can pretty much book it in the Final Four. If one of these semifinal games, if something happens tonight, tomorrow, it's a walkthrough. And then maybe in the championship game, maybe if something happens, they can adjust the schedule. But you can book.
Adjusted the schedule for Indy for a Big Ten football. Why can't they adjust the schedule for a championship game?
It's stupidity. That's why. That's just beyond dumb. I mean, we all know it. Everybody knows it. There wasn't one soul on earth that saw him say that said, that seems like a good idea.
It was said before the tournament even started, and then
no. This was 2 days ago.
Yeah. But the process was laid out before the selections even happened, and then he just reiterated what was said before. I mean, before Selection Sunday, it was all right. If within like a 48-hour window something happens, we can replace the team. Once the tournament starts, it was very, very clear from before Selection Sunday. Once the tournament starts, that's it. If a team has COVID, we're not replacing them. We can't alter the dates of the tournament because that wouldn't have worked in the early rounds. It wouldn't really work either in the Final Four unless the championship game and when there's only one game to work with. But if it happens, expect a walkover. They're not going to change their minds.
Hopefully that don't happen.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they could change anything else in the spur of a moment if they need to. I don't know why they wouldn't do that. But
I mean, they can move it to Monday, because if it's a Houston UCLA men's national championship, I can guarantee you I'm not watching it, because I can guarantee the number would be 5 and the total would be 127.5. So I'm not watching it. UCLA Houston the game. I'll watch Monday Night Raw.
How'd you do yesterday with baseball being back, Raphael? What did it look like in Vegas?
It was weird. I mean, get to see the fans in the stands in some of the baseball ballparks. My Cubs lose to the Pirates, so that was a fun thing to watch in early afternoons. That set my evening nicely. But it was nice to see baseball come through the windows. Had some nice wins for us. I mean, the Angels beat the White Sox. The White Sox are pretty much the Cleveland Browns of Major League Baseball this year. So that was good to see that. The Dodgers lose against Colorado. The Brewers come from behind because Minnesota just tanked it in the 8th and 9th inning and just gave the game away. So it was good to see so many one-inning run wins that killed a lot of run lines that helped us as well. So it was a good day for us. And I love opening day. I know my Cubs stink, and I know my Cubs lost yesterday, but I was just fans at Wrigley. I mean, drinking Old Style and freezing their booties off and watching Cabrera hit a home run in the snow. I mean, that's just – I was so happy to watch MLB opening day yesterday.
Me too.
Everybody loved the extra inning rule. Let's just throw somebody on second and give everybody a fake winner in this game. Everybody like that?
Yeah, I was a big fan of it, actually, because now the Braves are behind the Nationals in the standings, just like it should be.
Yeah.
I like it because it changes the MLB. Oh, nothing changes our national pastime. Nothing changes, and I like the change. So it shows that they're finally moving to maybe a different mindset.
Yeah, like Little League.
Yeah. Makes the games go by quicker, because I'm sorry. If I have to sit around and watch an 8-hour Red Sox-Yankees game, I'd rather shoot myself.
Well, Red Sox-Yankees games, even when they play 9 innings, are historically long.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
maybe they should just make those games just 7-inning games.
Oh, yeah, let's just keep changing the rules. Since you don't like one, just make another one.
That's what I'm talking about. Isn't that how we do things?
And the Yankees lost yesterday, so that was even better for us.
Well, we're looking forward to next week, Raphael. We got the Masters coming up next week, and obviously baseball in full swing and things of that nature. But we'll leave it there for now. Happy Final Four weekend. Happy Easter weekend to you. Thank you for everything you do for us. We really appreciate it. I'm sure Vegas is going to be a lot of fun over the next 4 days with basketball, college basketball finally wrapping up. And I know you'll be busy, but thanks, brother.
Take it easy, guys. Have a great weekend. Happy Easter. Stay safe.
Later, man.
Sir, you too. There you go. Raphael Esparza on Twitter at VSI.sports. MyBookie.ag is where you can join Darren Goldwater and make a bunch of money. And then go buy an air fryer.
Ideally, yes. That's the goal.
That's right. That's right. All right, it is time for a timeout. Hour 2 is coming up next. Clemson will play their spring game this weekend up in Death Valley. Grace Raynor is going to preview that for us coming up next. And then we also have a wild MMA story to get to you. If you haven't heard about this is really magnificent. It's hard to believe. We've got some golf we'll touch on as well, and into some football and some baseball. So it's a jam-packed final hour. Hang tight. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen Power Hour, coming up next. What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at McFadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about McFadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risk their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston. Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Low Country. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit StonoFerryGolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. StonoFerryGolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the national anthem.
Show. Live, loud, and online.
Final hour of the work week. Welcome back. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Darren Goldwater, Jamie Bradford, here until 2 o'clock today. Thanks to Debbie Antonelli and Raphael Esparza for joining us in hour number 1. Make sure you follow us across all social media platforms at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. We still have plenty to get to today, but amongst the Final Four weekend, amongst all the golf that's coming up, amongst opening day with baseball, college baseball, there's football. And tomorrow, Clemson is going to kick off their spring game here in 2021. And Grace Raynor will be covering it as she always does. And she is kind enough to join us today on the phone from theathletic.com. Hey, Grace, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are y'all doing?
So you're going to squeeze this whole spring game thing into Final Four weekend and all this other stuff we got going on in sports. Did Coach Sweeney not look at the schedule?
Man, I know. As soon as I saw that they were going to overlap, a part of me died on the inside. But such is life as a sports writer.
I'm sure there's a Taylor Swift song that can soothe you for this weekend.
Yeah. I'll have to go through the catalog to take like my favorite 40.
That's right. That's exactly right. Well, Grace, look, before we get to football, I know that you went to North Carolina. You're a big Roy Williams fan. Yesterday, he announced his retirement. Actually, I think I saw on Twitter that you had a chance to meet him at one point in time, and I wanted to ask you what that experience was like, what it meant for you, and your thoughts on Roy Williams.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. My little Roy Williams story, everyone has one because he just seems to be so personable and friendly. But long story short, we ran into him in the parking lot of a game in 1999. I was 5, and my dad asked for a quick photo. He was there. He had flown in from Kansas to see his son Scott on senior night, and he was very nice and happily said yes. And so my dad took a quick picture, and then, we went on with our separate ways. And 16 years later, I was a senior at Carolina covering March Madness for the Daily Tar Heel. Obviously, Roy Williams had returned to UNC in 2003. And so my mom kind of reached out to the SID and told him the story and said, hey, I know that autographs for reporters are a big no-no, but I would love to, surprise Grace and give her this as a gift. So long story short, I have a framed photo of when I was 5 years old. Roy Williams signed it, and it's currently hanging in my apartment. And then we have a photo together from 16 years later when I was a senior at the DTH.
That is so cool, and you'll have that forever. Now you're gonna have to get a photo with him post retirement. You realize that, right?
I'm gonna have to go to the golf course for that one.
That's exactly right, down here in Charleston. I'm sure he's going to be down here a whole heck of a lot, starting as soon as he can. As a matter of fact, we just talked to Debbie Antonelli a little while ago about this. She knows Roy well, and she said she's going to challenge him to some golf down here out at Bulls Bay. And he of course. So Roy Williams, I'm pretty sure I have this part of the story correct, actually introduced Chad Holbrook and his wife Jennifer. She was his assistant at North Carolina when Coach Holbrook was an assistant baseball coach, and the Holbrooks are really good friends with Roy Williams, and he comes down and sees them a lot as well. So, yeah, if you want to catch Roy, let us know, Grace, and we'll set you up with the right people around here.
Man, what a cool story that is! What a small world.
Oh, yeah, no kidding.
Especially down here.
And actually, you'll be behind Darren and I because we're going to utilize Chad and Debbie's connections to our advantage first.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, Clemson's going to go tomorrow. The spring game will conclude their spring practice. What are your storylines heading into this year's spring game? Obviously, there's a change of quarterback. Everybody knows about DJ Uiagalelei. We'll talk a little bit more about him in a minute. But outside of that, what are your main storylines as this time of the year for Clemson football concludes?
Sure. I mean, I think that when you look at Clemson, the entire defense, other than Darian Kendrick, is returning. So I think that we kind of know what we're going to see there. But I am most curious, outside of DJ, I am most curious about how they rotate their running backs. Does someone emerge? Does Lindsey Dixon take over? Does Coach Pace take over? Is this more of a by committee thing? What does Will Shipley, the freshman, look like? So I really do want to watch the running backs. I've heard that they've had a very good spring. Dabo said they ran really well in the scrimmage the other day. And then I want to see the offensive line. I mean, I think that's something that we talked a lot about in 2020, something that didn't go away. Their struggles were very apparent. Dabo himself has said, in a normal year, I could rotate 10 or 11 guys on the offensive line. In 2020, he rotated about 6. And so I want to see how those guys look. Obviously, you know, the quarterbacks won't be live and it is just a spring game. But if Clemson is going to take the next step, I think that's where they have to do it. Their offensive line just got so worn down in 2020, and it absolutely showed down the stretch.
Well, it's such a different conversation, Grace, as you well know, when you talk about the lines of scrimmage for Clemson now versus, I would say, 7 to 8 years ago, probably in that range, because Darren and I have talked about this often. When Clemson turned the page from great program to elite program is when they just started getting the dudes up front. They got the dudes, and you know that when they don't throw out a lot of offers, and they offer the best players from every corner of the country, and they're landing them. So I guess the question is, I know he wants to see improvement, but does he have the dudes? Does he have the horses? And based on what you've seen, do they?
I mean, I think they will, yes. I mean, I think you look right now, and this is an offensive line especially is an area where, and Dabo talks about this, they've recruited much better recently. He said, as you were saying, 7-8 years ago, they had to take the guys they can get, with no offense to those guys, and develop them. Now they can go in and they can get a Jackson Carman. They can get a Tristan Lee. We won't see him tomorrow because he has not enrolled yet. But I think he is the biggest recruit they signed in this past class because he's a 5-star offensive tackle and the highest rated offensive lineman they've ever had in program history. So I think that they're at a point right now where I don't look at the offensive line in the same way I do the defensive line, where you can basically just look down the whole line and see a bunch of 5-stars between Brian Brzee, Tyler Davis, Xavier Thomas, Miles Murphy. I mean, the defensive line is just totally stacked with 5-stars, whereas the offensive line, I think, has 1 or 2 sprinkled in, and then some more, high 4s, maybe low 3s. But I do think they're going to get there, and I think that they have the bodies to fit their system, and I think that they now finally have the experience, and that was the big thing that they lacked in 2020 is they just had no functional depth on the offensive line.
Grace Raynor with the Athletic 110 on this Friday afternoon. How about a quick injury report, Grace? Let's start with Justin Ross. Where is he? What are doctors saying about his injury right now?
Yeah, so Justin is going to know in June what his prognosis is and if he can play football again.
Wow.
June will be the 1-year mark from his surgery that he had on a bulging disc. And he will go to Pittsburgh. He had an appointment this past week. It was on Zoom. He says that he feels really good and he thinks that everything's going to go as expected. Clemson's hope all along has been that he will be cleared for contact come fall camp and be able to play a normal season in the fall of 2021. So that's where he is right now. He was the first to say, I do not know what the doctor's going to say. I do not know what they're going to ask me. But I feel good. So that's kind of where he is. And Clemson will hopefully get some clarity as we get into the summer.
What was that date?
Go ahead. Yeah.
The date he'll find out? Yeah.
To Pittsburgh. It should be late May, early June.
Okay. Got it.
What about elsewhere on the roster? What is the injury list? What does the injury report look like right now? And how many of those are deemed, quote, serious maybe by the football program?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know of any that are super serious. Andrew Makuba, I think we were all excited to see him. He's a freshman safety out of Texas. He will not play. He has an arm injury, so he will not be playing tomorrow. And then looking at Malcolm Green, he had surgery. He missed the last couple weeks. Frank Ladson has been out, wide receiver. He's missed the last little bit. So they have some guys that they need to get healthy and some guys that may or may not have to have some minor procedures. But as far as I know off the top of my head, I don't know of anything major that, okay, we're already looking at, not available for fall camp.
All right, so let's talk about the running back room here. And I know that there has been some discussion about this group and how well they have been performing or will perform and things of that nature. But, Grace, I think it's first of all, we all know this is an incredibly talented group. They always are, and at least they have been for the last 10 or 15 years up there. But the one thing that's really missing is they're not returning a school record holder. I mean, they returned Etienne, they returned Gallman before that, and they returned all these guys. Every year somebody was coming back who had set a bunch of records, and they don't necessarily have that, but they do have talent. So what have they seen from this group in spring practice?
Yeah, I think that my view of it, I think that I have heard the most and or just have a gut feel the most, if you will, on Lynjay Dixon and Kobe Pace. Just in terms of Lynjay, he's obviously been Travis's backup his entire career. He is now a senior. And I thought it was really interesting a couple of weeks ago that Dabo Swinney said, there's a difference between running away from a fire and running to a fire. And he feels like Lynjay kind of falls in the latter. He just says he really likes the mindset that he has brought. He seems to be just playing with a sense of urgency. Lynjay was in yellow a couple weeks ago when we got to go see practice, so I don't know the extent of that. We haven't been told anything that is serious. I expect us to see him tomorrow. And then Kobe Pace is just, he's a guy that when he came in, he got some comparisons to James Davis, just a thick, big-bodied back, power guy who can move through traffic. And then you just look, it's just such a stacked room. Like, I don't know that, like you said, they don't have a Travis and they don't have a Wayne Gallman returning, but they have 5, 6, 7 guys between Lynjay, Pace, Malusi, Dukes, Frencher, Shipley, Phil Maffa. I mean, that's 7 running backs right there on scholarships that they can throw in at any point. So I think that it'll probably be more like a committee, but we might get some clarity tomorrow as we go into this game.
They'll be led by quarterback DJ Uiagalelei. What have you learned about him this spring? How has he carried and taken on the role of leader of the offense?
Yeah, I mean, Dabo has said, and I think we all saw this, we all knew this, DJ has great respect from his teammates. We saw what he did when Clemson went to Notre Dame, and he, casually threw for 439 yards. And so I think that the DJ's a guy that they're very confident in. They all really like. They were, very on board to wrap their arms around him last year and rally behind him last year when Trevor Lawrence had COVID-19. I do think there are some areas, Dabo has said that they made some critical mistakes in the red zone and some of the scrimmages. And DJ, I think there's some areas that they are going to continue to try to pull him along in. And he's not a returning starter. He is a returning backup. And so by no means do I think that he's a polished product right now. But he probably shouldn't be in the spring. If you're playing your best ball in the spring, then you probably got an issue on your hands. So I think they feel really good with where he's at. But certainly I'm very excited to see him tomorrow. I think we all know about the big arm. We've seen him run a little bit. But what does the Clemson offense look like when it is solely in his possession?
Well, and they're not coming out of the gates, no offense to anybody, like a Furman or whoever you want to throw in there. They played Georgia in week 1, and so it's going to need to be pretty good pretty quickly for the Clemson Tigers. Grace Raynor here with the Athletic. 1:16 on this Friday afternoon. Just a couple quick ones left, Grace, and then we'll let you go. On the defensive side of the ball, Xavier Thomas is still there, but I don't feel like anybody really knows who is Xavier Thomas anymore. I mean, last year he didn't start the season. They apparently had some COVID issues. He comes back. You've heard whispers here and there of some issues with him. I don't know if any of that's true. I have no clue. When his motor is turned on out there, he's excellent. When it's not, he's not very good. So what's going on with Xavier Thomas? Where does he stand in this program right now, and what do they expect out of him?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we talked to Dabo about Xavier, the one thing that he has said is that last year Xavier Thomas was consistently inconsistent, and that this spring he seems to be turning the corner to that everyday consistency. And so I think Xavier is a guy, we all know, like you said, what he can do. I mean, 5-star product from Florence out of IMG Academy. His freshman year, he had a great freshman year. I think he had 10.5 tackles for loss. He was hanging right in there with Cleveland and Austin Bryant. He was the first guy off the bench to go fill in for some really, really good defensive linemen, as we now know are all in the NFL. So I think we've seen flashes of him, but consistency has been a little bit of a problem. And then, yes, the COVID situation last year, he contracted it right around spring break, and it took him a long time to be able to just physically get back to where he needed to be. Being able to play football at full speed. So I think this is the season that we are all waiting for to see with Xavier. I think there's no question his talent. I think we all know he could have a really long career in the NFL. We just, I think we're all looking forward to seeing him kind of put the pieces together.
Is it 27,000 that will be at the spring game? Is that the number? Am I wrong?
I think it's around 20. It's right at the it's right at around 24-25% capacity. So I think it's right around 20,000.
Okay, so right around 20,000. We just saw a few days ago, a couple days ago, earlier this week, Roger Goodell announced that the NFL is expecting to have full capacity ballparks across the country here in just a few months. Have you dug into any of that with Clemson or with the ACC? I know that it's, we've just turned the page into the month of April. Has Dan Radakovich and the administration at Clemson spoken on at least what they're preparing for at this point in time this fall when it comes to fan capacity?
I mean, I think best case scenario, of course, they want to be at a place where we're having a normal season again. Obviously, we're seeing the rollout of the vaccine, and it seems like just as a country, we're at least making progress towards becoming normal again. But I think that that's something that we'll ask them about, and that they'll start to really make some more definitive decisions on as the summer ensues. I mean, I remember last year, there was no such thing as any sort of certainty in 2020, as we all learned. But I think that they will obviously look at, what's going on, what everyone else is doing. But best case scenario, I think they would love to be able to be in the situation where we return to normal.
How close are you keeping an eye on the Pac-12 commissioner status with Radakovich's name kind of at least in the mix on the periphery, or maybe even deeper than that?
Yeah, I think it's something you always have to watch, especially when you cover an athletic director who, has been, his name came up obviously when the ACC was searching for its next commissioner. So I think it's something that you monitor and keep your eye on, and just follow it as closely as you can. I'm curious to see where the Pac-12 goes, what ends up happening. But yeah, I think it's something that you look at.
Yeah, it would be. I mean, Dan Radakovich is a guy. I said this to you, Darren, a few weeks ago. I don't think that that's something that he should pursue personally. I think he's got a pretty good gig right now. Things are rolling up there, but I don't know. We'll see how it all works out. But it's a
big job. He could be a hero if he gets that thing going the right way.
Oh, there's no doubt. Yeah, there's no. Do you have a personal opinion on it, Grace? How well do you know D-Rad? He's a great dude.
Yeah, my opinion on it is, I don't know that I do have an opinion on it, to be honest. I mean, I think like you guys said, whoever gets that job has the potential to take some big swings and, get things rolling. Like, I think it's maybe one of those things that you look at as big risk, big reward situations. But other than that, I mean, I think he's absolutely capable. I mean, we all know how smart Dan Radakovich is. I think he's certainly capable of taking the job, but I don't really have a good feel one way or the other just on my personal opinion on it.
Well, I know this. You're pretty good at what you do too, and we're happy to have you around here. It's been so good to catch up with you. I know that you'll be busy all this weekend covering the Clemson spring game, Grace. They are set to kick off tomorrow afternoon, and that will conclude spring football for the Tigers. And then the next time we see them, they'll be getting ready to go for the 2021 season in the Georgia Bulldogs. And so we'll follow along as we always do. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful Easter weekend, Grace, and enjoy the Final Four. And I really hope that you run into Roy Williams here pretty soon.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and happy Easter to you and your families as well.
Thank you so much. There you go. Grace Raynor with The Athletic, which, by the way, if you're not a subscriber to The Athletic, boy, are you missing out. It is awesome what they do. That app is so clutch.
I mean, and the cool thing is, it stories, there are lots of good storytellers out there in sports and various different websites and apps. But what The Athletic does, it's different. It's a different model. It's more of the background story, who people are, who the organization is, why you're at the position that you're at. It just goes deeper than a box score and covering the game type of stuff. It's become one of my go-tos. I mean, the top of the line for sports stuff for me.
Yeah, there's no question. If you like earlier this week, it was like Josh Kendall. It's stuff like this that they can put out whenever they want to, and Josh Kendall earlier this week, who actually covers South Carolina, listed this wasn't just about the Gamecocks. He listed the ranked all the football hires in the SEC from 1992 until 2019. And like when you think about that, that is first of all, that's an incredibly difficult job. I mean, this is all, opinion based basically with him. But that's the type of stuff, especially as we start to inch our way towards summer. Those are the things that keep us busy until we get into the fall. But it's that type of stuff, obviously, in addition to their daily coverage of everything. And Grace is as good as anybody with what she does with Clemson football. I'm not sure what Greg meant by this Eastern Illinois, Jamie. I wasn't talking about South Carolina. I was talking about Clemson.
No, I think it was that came in right about the time. You said, no offense to anyone, Clemson's not opening with Furman. They're opening with Georgia. So I think he was just throwing in Eastern Illinois for fun.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't taking a shot at Clemson. I was saying that
no, not at all.
DJ Uyunglele has to play Georgia out of the gates, not somebody
Eastern
else.
Illinois.
Yeah, or whomever. Yeah, it wasn't a Carolina Clemson haymaker or anything like that. So it is Power Hour on our program. Wando Power powers our final hour of the afternoon. Head to wandopower.com. Maybe a great weekend to get out and kind of work around the yard. This is probably more than likely going to be the last cooler weekend of the year, at least until we get into the late fall down here in the low country. So if you are going to hire the yard guys soon because it's going to be too warm to get out there and do it, maybe make this weekend your final weekend doing yard work, trying to get out all those weeds, get the grass cut, weed eated, blown off, whatever it is. You can head to wandopower.com to find all their available products. They're on Daniel Island here, of course, in the low country. Polk and Harrison Price, the entire Price family, they've been there for over 30 years. Last weekend, they just had their open house, which was amazing for them. It's amazing every year. They sold out of the zero-turn Hustler mowers that were 20% off. So if you need to go, if you're a landscaper, if you've got a crew that's going around and you need some new equipment for them, if you just need something for the garage, whatever it is, it's at Wando Power Equipment. You can also rent from there, whether it's a trailer, whether you need an aerator. It is aeration time. Have fun with that if that's something you choose to do in your own yard, because it's not fun at all. Maybe you need to grind a stump out of the yard, whatever it is. Wando Power Equipment, wandopower.com. Of course, they power the JB and Goldwater show, and they also power our segment with Mike Morgan. Mic'd Up with Mike Morgan on Tuesday afternoons here on our program. It is 1:26 on this Good Friday afternoon. We still have plenty to get to. We're going to update you on some golf coming up here in just a little bit. We've got a wild story.
And an update to the story, unless you've got the update. But I've got a new update just surfaced.
Oh, I don't have the new update, so we'll have to plug that in here in just a little bit. So you'll want to hear that. And then we just talked to Grace about the spring game. Clemson playing the spring game tomorrow. Are spring games still relevant? Could there be changes made to spring games? Mike Gundy, head coach at Oklahoma State, mentioned earlier this week he'd be in favor of a change, like, I don't know, playing Arkansas? Interesting. We'll talk about all of that. Hang tight. The JB and Goldwater show, protected by McFadden Pest Control. We'll be right back.
Peace and love at Stokes Speed Dub.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. Whatever you got planned this week, cancel it. 72 new Volkswagens will be sold in the next 72 hours at whatever price it takes. I repeat, 72 new Volkswagens will be sold in the next 72 hours. To the first 72 car buyers interested in saving up to $6,000 on a new Volkswagen for 3 days only. Every new Volkswagen and pre-owned vehicle at our bottom line price. Direct to the public, regardless of profit. Qualified purchases with interest-free financing for 60 months, and all trade-ins will be accepted. Interested parties should arrive early for best selection. You will not find a lower price anywhere in the country. 72-hour Volkswagen clearance, savings up to $6,000, 3 days only at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
Peace and love at Stokes Speed Dub.
$16.66 per month per $1,000 for 60 months at 0% APR with zero down. Plus tax tag includes $4.99.50 administration fee. Subject to VCI credit approval. Expires month end.
What's up, everyone? JB here. Want to tell you about my friends at McFadden Pest Control, as we do every day on our program. I love these guys. They've been in business over 40 years, and they treat our family like they've only been around for 4 days. Always doing their best work, trying to earn our business, although they know that they'll always have it. Heath and the guys take care of our quarterly, our mosquitoes, termite bonds, anything we can get them to do, they do it. They're the best. They're friends. Heath even often texts me and just asks to see how my family's doing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about McFadden Pest Control. Switch to them. You'll never have anyone else protect your home. McFaddenPestControl.com, McFaddenPestControl.com here in the Low Country.
Guys, spring is finally in the air. You know what that means? Basketball in its home stretch. March Madness promotion at Dog and Ducks, 3 locations in Mount Pleasant, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. From now until the end of the tournament, $5 Sweetwater pints. That's right. Every Sweetwater, just $5 at Dog and Duck, Park West, Bell Hall, and their Clements Ferry location. Plus, baseball spring training, college baseball, spring football. It's all available at Dog and Duck's 3 locations in Mount Pleasant.
Hey, South Carolina, what's going on? This is Patrick Davis, and you are listening to my friends JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Final segment of the work week. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. It's also probably a great weekend to go buy a car.
I would think so.
Getting the tax refunds back right now.
Yep. Get one of those new Atlases out there and take the family for a trip.
That was a sweet ride.
It is.
It's a sweet ride, man. StokesVW.com if you are in the market for one of those new rides. All right, so let's get this MMA story in here. This is pretty wild stuff. This happened last night in Philadelphia, and I'm going to try it. I'm looking on screen here, so forgive me, but Katog Pliev, I believe is his name. Katog Pliev or Pliev. Anyways,
whatever it is.
He had to have a finger surgically reattached, and it's because it fell off in the middle of a fight in Philadelphia.
No, it fell off is the right way to put it.
Well,
ripped off, yanked off.
However you want to put it, it wasn't there, and they noticed that it was gone, and they stopped the fight. The fighters, the promoter, the ring attendants, they even had fans looking. Hey, if anybody sees a finger, somebody let us know. Nobody could find it. They finally found it, and I think this is the update that you were talking about. Yep. They finally found it in the glove that he was wearing. The finger was stuck in the glove, and so they were able to put the finger back on. I guess the doctors told him that he tore 50% of the tendon on the finger, and he might need another surgery. Yeah, but the whole finger fell off.
How do you tear 50% of something and the finger falls off? That sounds very 100% like to me.
I think that the tendon is up higher on the finger.
So it was part of the finger that was missing. The 50% tendon was complete in the missing part.
Yeah, it was. Maybe that's what it is. There's something else to it. But at the end of the day,
parents don't let your kids fight MMA. So they stopped the fight because they realized the finger was missing, but it didn't get realized immediately. Like, what type of pain tolerance do these guys have to realize after the fact that, oh man, I only got 9? I mean, that's kind of crazy.
Exactly. Well, and you have to wonder too, what if you were, I mean, let's say you were sitting up close. I don't know if they're allowing fans front row or not for MMA right now, but who cares? You're sitting up close to the cage, and the fight stopped, and this guy's walking around without a finger on. You're going, oh my God, the guy lost his finger. And then they make the announcement of, hey, by the way, if you happen to look around your chairs, if you don't mind,
take a sip of that beer and just be careful.
If you happen to see a finger, don't touch it. Let us know. We're gonna come grab that from you. But it was in the glove. It was in the glove.
Modern day Ronnie Lott. It's just MMA.
So there you go. Yeah, it's the guy. I'm assuming, Darren, that he's gonna fight again. I can almost probably guarantee you that's.
He seems pretty tough. It seems as though he would get back in the ring. I don't know him. I've never heard of him. I'm not an MMA guy for the most part, but I mean, look, if you lose a finger and it's not that big of a deal, then how big of a deal is it to put it back on and get back in the ring?
Yeah, well, he's and Greg asked, did it get caught in the cage? I don't know. They have not been specific. I think it just happened in some type of combat between the two fighters, and somehow the thing just clipped off. It was his left ring finger. So if he's married, probably going to want to need to get that one back. But anyway, so good luck to this young man. And if you're, every MMA fighter is better than I would ever be. So I'm not taking a shot at him. But as you mentioned, we don't know who he is because generally the big fights are on Saturdays. So obviously it's some type of qualifier in Philly on a Thursday or something like that. So hopefully he gets his finger back in pursuit of his Saturday night dreams.
Yeah, and his ring finger.
Yeah,
with luck.
At the Valero Texas Open in San Antonio, there's a lot of stuff going on in San Antonio right now. Maybe a women's Final Four. You get the Valero Texas Open in golf. It is Cam Tringale, who is at 4 under today through 12, 10 under for the tournament. 4 shots ahead of Matt Wallace, who sits at 6 under. Jordan Spieth will tee off in 30 minutes exactly, 2:04 Eastern. He is at 5 under, and he is the name that most are really following along with right now because the Masters is next week. And as Scott Glaze pointed out yesterday, this is an incredibly important week to Jordan Spieth in hopes of and pursuit of another green jacket, place obviously he knows quite well in Augusta, Georgia. But some think that this week is going to be pretty critical to how he plays next week in Augusta. So we'll continue to kind of keep our eyes on that throughout the weekend as well. The ANA Inspiration, which of course is the first major of 5. By the way, there are 5 majors in women's golf. It's the first of 5 being played at Mission Hills Country Club in Rancho Mirage, California. On the ladies' side, right now there are 3 at 6 under par, and the only one that I know Mariah Jutanagarn is at 6 under. Leona McGuire is at 6 under, and Patty, I'm sorry, but I can't pronounce her last name, is also at 6 under par. They are leading the tournament right now in round 2. Jennifer Kupcho is a name that many of you may know. We met her actually just a couple of years ago here for the Women's U.S. Open. She is at 3 under, and yesterday Scott Glaze pointed out he would keep an eye on Nelly Korda and Lexi Thompson. Lexi Thompson right now is at 2 under par, and Nelly's sister Jessica Korda is at 2 under par as well. So a couple of notables from the first major of the year in women's golf. And I also want to remind everybody as well that the ANWA, the Augusta National Women's Amateur, while it is playing this week and weekend, it is not playing today. Today is the practice round at Augusta National for the top 30 coming out of the last 2 rounds, and then they'll play tomorrow's final round on the grounds of Augusta National, and we'll see who wins that. But yesterday, it was a 17-year-old who was leading the women's amateur, which is remarkable.
Yeah, great for her. Yeah, great for her, man.
Also announced today by Governor Henry McMaster here in the state of South Carolina, the 3rd PGA tournament this year is a 3rd PGA tournament this year is coming to South Carolina. In just a couple of weeks, we have the Heritage. By the way, Lee Westwood confirmed yesterday he's actually going to play at that, I think, for the first time in like 15 years. So the field is deepening with some big names down there at Hilton Head. We obviously have the PGA Championship coming to town. And then this morning it was announced that the Palmetto Championship will be played in place of the RBC Canadian Open, which will be June 10th through the 13th in Ridgeland, South Carolina. The Palmetto Championship, Ridgeland, basically between Hilton Head and Charleston, about 80 miles southwest of Charleston. And that will be in June. So we're going to have April, we're going to have May, we're going to have June, a tournament in all 3 months. On the PGA Tour right here in the Palmetto State, the Palmetto Championship, and they're hoping that this is going to be something that they'll do every single year. Hopefully they can bring this here. We'll see what happens with the Canadian Open and how that balances out, but really neat stuff there as it pertains to golf in the state of South Carolina, Darren. We're certainly looking forward to getting it all back here in the next couple of weeks. All right, let's get to Mike Gundy and his comments about the spring game.
Yes.
So just a couple of days ago, obviously tomorrow we have Clemson's spring game. Also, spring games going on all across the country at this point in time. Mike Gundy basically said, look, we're not having a normal spring game because we don't have the bodies right now. They've got some injuries, with the transfer portal, you get folks who are leaving, you get guys who are coming in a little bit later. So obviously what you're seeing right now in spring practice in college football is nowhere near a complete product of what you're going to see at the end of August as we're set to begin games. Matter of fact, even when you start practice in August, the beginning of August, you're still not really going to have your full team for a lot of different programs. They're still waiting on transfers to come in. I know that some of this has come up in years past. Like, are spring games, would they be better off playing separate opponents? Mike Gundy says, I'd like to play somebody else. It would make it better for the fans. It would make it better for my guys. Apparently he's not, I guess he was talking about being able to probably stop the game at times if you need to and work on stuff and things like that. It's not just some full-fledged football game in April, Darren, but he might be on to something. I don't think that at this point in time there would be enough support for that amongst college football coaches. But I do believe that as things continue to change with transfer portals and players coming and going and they're holding guys out longer when it comes to injuries and all these types of things, and a lot of these spring games start to become a little bit less relevant, I think there might be more coaches in the future that might hop on that bandwagon and say, hey, yeah, let's try to dial up something against somebody else.
I'm on the bandwagon. I've been on the bandwagon. I've never been a big spring football game guy, because really, how much are you going to learn? It's such a controlled environment. And even if you change it and it's a scrimmage against another team, it can be a very controlled scrimmage. Like you just said, at times you can stop the game. You could work, 4 straight first down plays from the 25 going up, your ones against, let's say it's South Carolina against pick a team, Clemson, Wake Forest, whoever. Yeah, great. Whatever. So at least it's 2 different teams that are out there, and you're getting a sense of your guys against another team. And then what you can do once you have that is you can start making more money off of your spring game as well. So it wouldn't shock me if it goes this way. It just gives you, you put an opponent in there as a scrimmage who you aren't going to see in the regular season, so that neither one of you is gaining an advantage. It's very much like what the NFL does. Before their preseason games themselves, there are lots of teams that do controlled scrimmages at their practice sites in their training camps. Right. Very, very similar to that. It works out well. It's enjoyable for fans, and it gives you a different perspective than just orange on orange or orange and white or just your own guys. I'm a big fan of the idea.
So here's a question that I would have about this. If you are, let's just stay in state with our Power 5 programs in Clemson and South Carolina. If you're the Tigers and you're the Gamecocks, do you want to go out there and play against another Power 5 opponent, a peer essentially of yours in the spring? Let's say this ever came to fruition. Obviously, the talent level, the ability level of your opponent is going to be much more what you're in search of. Or just for the sake of changing team colors and just seeing a different face, is it fairer to say that it's going to be Clemson and PC and South Carolina and Newberry or something like that?
If that's going to happen, I wouldn't want it to be a controlled scrimmage. I'd want it to be like a preseason game itself, if it's going to be a mismatch of those type of proportions. So I would prefer, because you want it to benefit you in some form or fashion. A spring game does benefit the coaches. It benefits the players. It gives you an idea of where you are after spring practice. If you just go out there against a far lesser opponent, just strictly numbers wise, then you're and size and skill, you're not going to have as good of an idea out of spring practice. So if this comes to fruition, I wouldn't want a mid-major FCS 1AA as an opponent for a Power 5 school. Group of 5, okay, because you need some more options, because what you don't want, I don't think, is to scrimmage a team that is on your schedule, because you want some more transparency during that scrimmage. If you're going to stop and start and run various plays, and you could have coaches out there right in the ear of quarterbacks and coaching up as the game's going on the field. So you don't want to face a scrimmage opponent that you'll see, but I would like a more even matchup as opposed to a spring game.
I mean, does it have to be universal? Is this, because here's, everybody right now, not everybody, but a lot of programs are doing what they feel is best for their program specifically.
Yeah.
You've got some programs that aren't they're not even holding spring games. You have some that it's just a glorified practice, basically. You have some that take it very seriously. You have the A-Day game in Tuscaloosa, or Georgia's spring game. These guys they literally go out there and they're like, we're going to battle to the death today. Basically, we're going to find out who's best. You've got like Will Muschamp used to do it. It was an offense defense scrimmage. It's South Carolina. Guys like Steve Spurrier would literally split the team up, and you'd have 2 offenses and 2 defenses. You go out there and see who won the game. So, and there's still a lot of people that do things like that. So everybody has a little bit of a different model based on the health of their team, the numbers on their team, what they've maybe already seen in practice versus what they need to see, and things of that nature. If you take it to a different level and you say, well, we're Clemson and we're actually going to scrimmage, Oregon State, and South Carolina says, well, we don't want to do that. We're just going to continue to do the garnet and black game. We're going to split in 2 teams, go play each other. Fine. Who cares? I mean, who really cares? It's the spring.
Yeah. And everyone, like you just pointed out, is doing something different anyway. They're doing what's best for their team anyway. Some teams will forego a spring game. I'm sure we had last year. There were a bunch of spring games that didn't happen. Granted, that was COVID. But it depends. Do what's best for your program. I don't think it needs to be a universal.
I don't either.
It doesn't need to be a universal thing. Do it as a test dummy, right? Say Mike Gundy pulls this off. Maybe next year, Mike Gundy pulls off a spring game as a scrimmage against pick your team, and it works, and they make money. And maybe you can split the gate between the 2 teams and split the concession between the 2 teams. And then that spreads, and other coaches and administrators hear it, and they're thinking, oh, okay, well, at least it worked over there. Now I'll try it. So I don't think it's a sweeping universal change. And I do think you can do what's best for your program and try different things. And I think you can do different things in different years. Play around with it. Like the Citadel last year did like an XFL or an AAF spring game with those type of rules. That's right. That's cool. That's fun. Play around with it, because at least that engages the fans a little bit more than just, all right, I know you've been hankering for football. Here it is. It's kind of football. Here it is. Come see it.
Yeah, and that's what we've seen. You brought up the fans, and that's kind of where it's trended over the last few years, at least in my opinion. You've seen, like, I think Clemson, what they've done, they've turned it into, well, obviously prior to the COVID last year and kind of fighting out of that now, but before that, they had turned it into a spring weekend, which I thought was the best thing in the world for the university. This is, in a couple of weeks when South Carolina has their spring game, Arkansas is also in town that day to play the Gamecocks in baseball, which is, if you're a fan, you're able to go watch the spring game and then go watch South Carolina and Arkansas in baseball. Clemson, they would do a bunch of stuff. They'd have a baseball game going on. They'd have a football game going on. They'd have, tennis. They'd have, I don't even know what else. And then they would
like a fan fest though.
Yeah. Yeah, they'd have other activities and the Children's Day and all this stuff. And you literally, it was like they would invite you, come to Tiger Town, and here's what we'll do. Your kids can go do this. Your kids can go do that. You can watch this game. You can leave here and go watch that game. They'd have things on events on Friday, on Saturday, on Sunday, and made it a very family type weekend. I have always actually been very encouraged by that. I think it's great for universities. I think it's a great way to network yourselves. I think it's a great way to raise money, to gain more
donors, absolutely.
Hey, even if you don't give money to Clemson, come up here and watch the football game this weekend, bring your family and be around it. They just try to get you on campus. You know what it is? It was essentially, in addition to just doing a lot for their current fans, it was almost like a recruiting tool for the school to get more folks encouraged by what they see on campus and to want to become an IPTAY member.
Yeah. Think about how nice campuses are across the country at this time of year. And this time being the whole length of time that teams would play their spring game. You bring the carnival type atmosphere to a campus with millions of different things for kids and families to do. And then you can sell that to recruits, because you're going to have pictures and aerials of this party-like atmosphere in the spring. And that can be another selling point. And then the product on the field itself becomes absolutely secondary. Right. So at that point, you can do whatever type of spring game you want, because it's one huge event. It's a weekend. It's a couple of days. whatever you want it to be. And then it kind of culminates or circles around the football game, which just becomes another part of it. And at that point, have fun with it. Do whatever you want with your spring game, because the experience is being on campus, being around the other fans, maybe figuring out, you know what, this is pretty cool. These are, I'll drop a couple bucks and become a donor and get some tickets. It makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I think because, again, I'm not a big spring game guy. There's just not a lot you can learn. You can see them going at full speed to a degree, but how much are you going to learn going team versus team? I've never thought there's a ton other than, all right, at this point in time in the year, before we even get to fall practice, here's what the depth chart looks like. Okay. And now let's see how that changes when we get to the fall.
Yeah, I mean, your football programs aren't getting a ton of answers out of spring games. You might get one here and there, but mostly it's, Spurrier used to always say, it's for the players, man. Go out there and have some fun and entertain yourselves, entertain the fans. Invite a bunch of former players back and things like that. And that's what I liked about what Clemson did. They actually made it. I have a family now. I've got 2 little girls and my wife, and that would be something that, at South Carolina, we could say, and, instead of going on vacation to here this weekend, we could take a little vacation and just go watch a bunch of stuff. And they provide you with things to do with your family. So, we'll see where it goes. I do think that Mike Gundy, he is a voice that people, believe it or not, listen to in college football. He's an interesting guy, and he's a charismatic dude. He's got some power.
He's polarizing.
Yeah, he is. He's a guy that, I mean, if Joe Schmo said this at Oregon State or, Utah or, wherever, Kansas State, I don't know that we'd be talking about it, but Mike Gundy said it.
Yeah.
And so it's something I think that holds some credence. And he's been a pretty successful coach. So I think it holds some credence, and we'll see where it goes, but certainly something I think worth looking at. I'd be interested to see what somebody like Dabo thinks about that, because they're a national championship contender. Do they want to risk injury in the spring? Like, that's the whole thing. Isn't that like the whole deal every year? It's like, whatever happens, we want everybody out healthy.
Yeah, the coaches plan their spring schedules, determining, all right, well, if someone gets hurt, this is the best spring schedules that I can have them back in the fall. But is there more of a risk of an injury in a scrimmage or a controlled scrimmage than there is in an intra-squad? I don't know. I wouldn't think.
I don't know.
I wouldn't think so. But I think the question, when you asked it, my first thought was, this is a program that's so insulated now that it's become so successful, right? If you're inside those walls, you're inside those walls. Do you want to let somebody else in and give them a firsthand up close look, someone else being another coaching staff,
right,
this close to the upcoming season, even if they're not on your schedule? Everyone's talking. So do you really want someone inside your walls at that point? And if I'm Dabo, when you asked that question, that was the first thought that popped to my mind. I don't know what his response would be, but that was the first thought that popped ahead.
Yeah, I would, if you're Dabo, his response might be a little bit different, but who knows? I don't know.
Every coach's response could be different.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? I mean, he's not scared to play anybody. They play everybody whenever anybody pretty much wants to play.
Yep.
So he might say, I don't really give a crap about that. Whatever's best for getting my guys better is all that matters to me.
Yeah.
We'll keep our eyes on it, but right now, tomorrow, they're going to play each other in the orange and white game up in Death Valley. All right, 843-321-8893 is our text line. It's 150, a little bit less than, or 152, a little bit less than 10 minutes in our week here on the JB and Goldwater show. Again, college baseball is also set to play tonight and throughout the weekend. In addition, of course, to the Final Four, Charleston Southern already played High Point yesterday. They lost 10-5. Now the Bucks are 8-10 overall, 7-8 in the Big South. The College of Charleston is set to start a 3-game series on the road at James Madison today. They'll play through Sunday and then head home. Cougs 4-2 in the CAA and 8-11 overall. They have won 3 in a row. They took down Georgia Southern this week, won the last 2 last weekend against UNC Wilmington, and have scored 27 runs combined in those 3 wins. So the Cougars offense is picking up a little bit, and hopefully that will stay that way this weekend as Chad Holbrook and the rest of the gang take the trip up the road there, try to win another series in the Colonial Athletic Association. The Citadel will host Mercer this weekend. As we know, a tough Mercer squad. Dogs come in. They've been struggling. They did not play the final game of that series last weekend against Western Carolina. They swung it okay, but they weren't very good on the mound last weekend. Let's just put it simple.
It's hard to play in Cullowhee. I don't know how many times I was with Citadel up in Cullowhee. It's not easy to play there, man. The press box, I think, has been renovated. It's still not anything great. It's not the smoothest field. You don't know what type of hops you're getting. Traditionally, it's tough to go play up there at that field.
It certainly was for the Citadel last weekend. They're only 1-4 in the SoCon. They need a couple of wins bad this weekend against Mercer, and we know how difficult that can be. Mercer is really, really good. Clemson coming off that 2-0 loss against Georgia earlier this week, 12-10, 6-6 in the league. Darren, they swept Boston College last weekend. They're going to try to do it again, and again on the road. They're at NC State this week, and it starts today in that 3-game series against the Wolfpack. Coastal Carolina won't play this weekend because of COVID protocols within the program. Right now, Coastal Carolina is 15-8, 2-2 in the Sun Belt. South Carolina, though, will play at Georgia tonight. 6 o'clock is the first pitch in that ball game. 17-6 are the Gamecocks, 4-2 in the league. The Dogs are 17-7, 2-4 in the league. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, for those who have not done their homework, the trends weren't and aren't good for South Carolina in this series, but we'll see if they can get that turned around. But they have lost 6 straight to Georgia. They have only won 3 series in Athens since the turn of the century. 2000, 2002, 2010. Now, those were all pretty good years. They were 1 win shy of Omaha in 2000. They went in 2002, and they won it all in 2010. So we'll see if they can get a series win down there. But, yeah, they've lost, I think, 6 straight series overall, Athens and Columbia. They've lost 10 of 11 games overall and 6 straight in the series. So it's going to be a difficult time against the Dogs tonight at Foley Field. And, of course, if you are a Gamecock fan, you've got double duty at 6 because the Georgia Bulldogs and the South Carolina Gamecocks will play in baseball, and then hoops, Final Four, Dawn Staley, and the Lady G's will go up against the Cardinal of Stanford at that point in time as well. That will lead off tonight's coverage in the Final Four right at 6 o'clock. I think it's 6:02 tip or something like that. And then right behind them, right around 9:30, is third-seeded Arizona and top-seeded UConn. Both of those, of course, from the Alamo Dome on ESPN. And then on the men's side tomorrow night at 5:14 Eastern, second-seeded Houston, top-seeded Baylor on CBS, UCLA, Gonzaga, 11-1 matchup at 8:34 on CBS. Those from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. And that is your Final Four weekend in hoops. And then you and I will be back on the air on Monday. And we'll see where things stand with all this stuff. But hopefully there won't be any COVID scares, and hopefully they'll be able to get all this in.
I side with our Vegas insider, Raphael Esparza. I like the Gamecocks +6, +5.5, whichever number you're going to get them at. I like UConn on the women's side. And then on the men's side, I do not side with Raphael. I think Houston is a popular upset pick right now, especially as we get a little closer to tip time. I think more people want to be cute because they're not going to be cute with Gonzaga. They don't trust that one as much, so they're going to ride Gonzaga in. And then I'll pick an upset. I'm going to pick Houston. I think Baylor wins the game and probably wins game comfortably, in the 7, 8, 9 point range. So I think we're setting up for the finals that we want to see on both sides with Gonzaga and Baylor and South Carolina and UConn.
By the way, the final is a 6 o'clock tip on Sunday evening, Easter Sunday, in the women's side. So South Carolina and UConn could be playing for a national championship, or whomever, somebody will be, at 6 o'clock on ESPN on Sunday. But I'm with you. I agree with you. I think that Houston is really good.
Oh, they are.
But I think Baylor's better, and I think this is essentially going to be chalk. I mean, throughout the year, we've thought that Gonzaga and Baylor were the top 2 teams in college basketball, and I think that tomorrow is going to prove that. I think that they both move on. I don't know about comfortably, but I think they both certainly move on. I think Gonzaga is maybe a little bit more comfortable than Baylor.
Absolutely.
And I'm with you on the women's side. I think South Carolina wins tonight. That's not being a homer. I like the way they're playing defensively. Right. The last 4 games defensively have been really magical.
Yep.
And if they have made everything a grinded out type game, and if early on tonight that's what it is, you should probably like your chances in picking the Gamecocks in that upset, because that's right in their favor. And I certainly like UConn as well. I'm with you there.
Yep. And they're playing their best ball of the year, and they got 2 games left. So it feels like it's a Gamecocks night tonight. We'll see.
Order yourselves a cheesesteak from DB's Cheesesteaks tonight, tomorrow, Sunday. We got all this great stuff going on this weekend with basketball and baseball and golf, you name it. Have DB's delivered to your doorstep, dbscheesesteaks.com for that entire menu. Don't forget the boardwalk fries. On the food note, I will say it is National Peanut Butter and Jelly Day.
Oh, so everyone likes peanut butter and jelly.
Classic, man. Who doesn't love PB&J?
Everybody does.
So happy National Peanut Butter and Jelly Day, in addition to your cheesesteak weekend and your Final Four weekend. We will have it all covered for you on Monday. Thanks to Debbie Antonelli, Raphael Esparza, and Grace Raynor for joining us on our program today. Thanks to Darren, as always, for all of his hard work around here.
Thank you, man.
And to all of you for watching and listening to our program. Eric Church is going to take us into the weekend. Put a drink in your hand, as Eric Church says. We'll return at noon on Monday, and we hope you all will as well. For Darren, I'm Jamie. Have a great weekend. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. We'll see you Monday at noon.